It's the Wordslinger podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hi, this is Kevin Tomlinson. I'm the Wordslinger. This is the very first full video version of the Wordslinger podcast. If you're not already a listener or subscriber, I want you to check it out at wordslingerpodcast.com. Of course, I want you to subscribe to this channel on YouTube and click the little bell icon wherever it happens to be so that you can be notified each time you get a new Wordslinger podcast episode uploaded here. So thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Now, I've got a great interview with my good friend and occasional co-author, Nick Thacker. He's a thriller author. He's just started doing this stuff full time. That means working for himself, everybody. So if you've ever been interested in doing that, as opposed to working for someone else, this is the interview for you. So stick around and enjoy this interview with my good friend, Nick Thacker. Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, of course, and I'm sitting with my good friend and frequent writing partner, mostly just a partner in crime. We're doing something a little different. This is the first time I've tried using Zoom for recording an actual podcast. So you might actually be watching this on YouTube somewhere for all I know, but welcome either way. And if this is your first time listening, you're in for a treat because Nick and I, we used to do a show together, but Nick kind of wussed out on me and and dropped out. We used to do self-publishing answers together. And we still kind of do self-publishing answers in a way. It's just a very limited audience.
That's right.
Welcome to the show, Nick, man. This is
hey, glad to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me.
At least the second time you've been on, right? Second or third time?
I think it's the second time. I don't know that I've been on more than once.
Yeah, I know. I had you on. Yeah, you've been on at least once.
Yes. Yeah.
So one of the reasons I wanted you on the show, of course, was because of a recent sort of lifestyle change you've had. You became a woman.
I did. Transitioned.
But more importantly, you've left behind like full-time gainful employment for the insecurities and existential crisis of being a full-time author. So congratulations on that, man.
Thanks. The way you put it that way, it's surprising like no one else does that.
Why doesn't everyone do this?
I did. Yeah. I was at a day job for really, I've been doing it for over a decade, working for churches, doing worship, that kind of thing. A lot of tech, a lot of music, and I loved it. And I was at a place that was really, honestly, the best place I've ever worked.
Yeah.
With people who are the best people in the world. And so I thought leaving a company on bad terms would be easier than leaving a company on good terms. But it turns out it's much, much more difficult to leave a company you love.
Yeah.
But I did it for the right reasons. We took the time and made sure it was a good decision to make. And here we are. So I'm not looking back.
Yeah. So the church you worked for, you've been there for how many years?
I was at that particular church for about 5 years doing that job.
5 years. And you've been writing pretty much that whole time, right?
Yeah, I actually started writing pretty close to right before I started that job. My first book was published in 2011, or I wrote it in 2011, I should say, and that was back in Texas. But we quickly, after we got married, my wife and I moved to Colorado Springs a year after we got married, and so that's about the same time. I came to the church. Everybody gave me a hard time. Oh, you write books? You'll be a famous author one day? Yeah, and I said, I hope so.
Yeah.
You guys buy.
Aren't you? So 5 years though, man, that's a lot. That's like an entire high school career plus 8th grade. Yeah,
or it's like a short college career.
Exactly. Shit, these days. Holy crap. And writing that whole time. And you and I, we've known each other now, I think we met in 2013. Right?
That sounds about right. That was in the
That's about 4 years. So most of your career at that's a weird way to think of it. Most of your career at that church, we've known each other.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Just 4 short years ago, I paid you a couple $100 to be my friend.
Best money you ever spent.
So now, so what, okay, where was the friction point for you though? Like when did it become a thing where you decided, you know what, it's definitely going to happen. I'm definitely going to leave my job, the security, the insurance, all the reasons people have to stay in a day job. Like where was the friction point for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know exactly when it came to a head, and that was it was on a date with my wife. We were out at grabbing drinks somewhere, and I'd been making good money from writing, not life changing money, but in a way, kind of, I guess, put it that way, because it changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing crazy, just hey, this is bringing in a full time income. That's pretty cool. And so she just sat, we were sitting down. I don't want to make it overly dramatic. She looked at me and said, "Well, when are you going to go full time as a writer?" And it was sort of weird because I guess I knew that there were plenty of authors that do that, and
Right.
I've been in groups on Facebook and forums of people that do that all the time, and so that actually was kind of a normal thing, but it was normal for other people to do, not for me, if that makes sense.
Right.
I considered that, well, that's something I need to be asking. And whenever I would write a journal post about it or whatever, here's my long-term goal. It was always a long-term goal. It was always,
Yeah.
well,
Some
and so when she said
distant
that,
future.
yeah, exactly, some future that I can't even really fathom. But she said that, and it was in January of this year, actually. She said, "Well, you're making good money doing this. You think it's going to continue?" Yeah. I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure it continues. And she said, "Well, then when are you going to consider going full time?"
Yeah.
I said, I think that was verbatim, actually, what I said. So,
That's a direct quote.
direct quote.
That'll be your quote for this episode.
my little pig shot.
Your interview card.
I love it. So she gave me an ultimatum. Working in church, the cycle is really Christmas to Easter, and then summertime is sort of the downtime
Right.
in my particular line of work. And so Easter was coming up. It's sort of like Game of Thrones. We always say Easter is coming.
Easter is coming. Yes, I know. Right? I know exactly why too.
So it's January. Easter is coming, and she said, "Why don't you look at Easter being the day that you know?"
Yeah.
So that way you're still committed to the church. Easter's a big deal. You don't want to, cut them short or anything. But at Easter, you need to know what you're going to do and sort of have a plan. And I said, okay, that's great. And it gives me 4 months to procrastinate, So Easter came, and it was weird because that conversation happened. That was the catalyst for it. But all of a sudden, the next few months, it wasn't a question of, well, am I going to do this? But it was when. And her ultimatum really is what shifted my mind, because it allowed me to feel like, okay, well, now I'm going to do this thing, this weird, scary thing.
Right.
Let's just get everything in place and figure out how to do it. And so Easter came, I had a plan, and July 1, I went full time as a writer.
Wow.
And that's August 1, I went back to day job. No, I'm just kidding.
That's a fast pace though.
It felt like it.
Yeah.
It did.
I mean, it's not. It's most of a year, I guess. But I mean, it's a fast pace from decision to pull the trigger.
Well, when you consider that your job isn't just a job, right? It's a lot of times it's your life. It's your entire social network. It's where you live. Sometimes it's based around your job. And so in that particular sense, I think it is quick. It is a fast move. But that being said, we've been married for 6 years, and we've moved until we bought this house that we're in now. We've moved every year, and sometimes out of state. Most of the time out of the city, with her getting jobs and stuff. So it doesn't really feel like it was crazy, because we were sort of used to having quick changes, and we had 2 kids. I mean, we've got all kinds of stuff that we haven't really ever been settled. You know what I mean? Right. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's great. We love our lives, but it certainly has been hectic and fast the whole time.
Right.
So full time in the span of 2 or 3 months, really wasn't as hard as I anticipated it being.
Yeah, I got to be witness to this through the whole thing, which is kind of a privilege.
You
really,
were my support network.
But it was cool for me though. Like it was sort of eye opening and educational, because in the time that you did this, I was doing crazy crap. Like, we were living in the RV full time at the front of the year, and now we're
that's true, right?
Apartment, and so there's lots of questions, right? So getting to see you do this, has been very cool and educational.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You only really get to do it once. You only get to do it the first time once.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good balance of, well, read everything you can and talk to people who've done it before. I did some of that. But hell, you just got to do it at some point, when the money's there and when the gut is there. And my wife is my gut, by the way. Like I don't ever trust mine. I just ask her. She tells me what to do.
I got my own gut.
Yeah. Just right there.
Right there.
It's really yours and Emily's that I trust more than mine. Because my gut often is like, whoa, you should probably worry about all this stuff.
You should probably worry.
Yeah, you guys are like, no, just do it. But the point is, when those two things check out, make the move, and that's the only way you'll figure out.
That's the thing. Yeah, you met all the criteria. I think what I would tell someone. Like when I leapt and went full-time freelance. I mean, honestly, I put a lot less thought into it than you did, even in the space between January and August.
Right.
And instead of the typical story is I was working in a place, I got laid off or fired, and now I'm a full-time author. So you did something that a lot of people.
Your boss.
Right. The fact that you were able to do it intentionally, I think, is notable.
Well, and for me, that's natural. I don't think it's something super honorable because I didn't think it through that much. It was really just a matter of I wanted to leave on my terms, and my terms were very simple. I wanted to not burn any bridges, and I wanted to make sure that it was something that both sides of both parties were a fan of, were in favor of.
Right.
And so they were talking about going a different direction with worship in general, not without me necessarily, but they just. We were having that conversation. Well, what do we want to do in a year and 5 years and 10 years?
Right.
And second, when we do figure that out, who's that person going to be? Is it going to be you? We like working with you and you like working here. And I said, I do love working here, but I also love this other thing that I've been doing and it's working.
Right.
And I'd love to see how this works. And it was two people, my boss and his boss, were all in the room and they both kind of were blown. They were like, I didn't know it was working that well. That's amazing. Go do that.
Right.
And so there's always been that feeling of, and this is unlike a lot of companies, especially the ones I've been a part of, even churches.
Yeah.
This church is different. This place is different. It is very much you first and the company second kind of thing. So they wanted me to be happy and me to find something that brought me joy.
Right.
Long before they cared about what I could do for them.
Right.
And they said that all the time and they told us that, but you don't really ever believe it until you see it. And so I saw it with a few other employees that left on really good terms. I even saw it with employees that left on not so good terms.
Right.
They cared more about that person's heart than they did for what that person could do for the company.
Yeah.
Here's the truth of it, man. I'm replaceable. Every single person at that place is replaceable. Their personality may not be exactly the same, but like what I do there, that's easy to find.
Right.
And they've got consultants right now that are going to help them through this next 6-month phase. And then they'll go to whatever the next thing is. They're doing great. They're fine. They're probably happier without me than they were with me. But
I doubt that.
The point is, like, when I realized that, and I think it took until I left to realize that. But when I truly realized that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. Like that's how they get away with caring more about the individual person and their family than what that person can do for the company.
Right.
So I felt pretty good about that, and I also get to see them just about every day. I take my girls into childcare there, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It is an unusual. I mean, it's not the typical work scenario, Right? And it is a more family-friendly atmosphere, and so they're going to be more supportive than, say, working for an ad agency or something.
Right.
But
yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You would hope anyway, but that.
You would hope. I worked for a lot of ad agencies and haven't had one yet that was, thrilled to see me go into a better career.
Well, I mean, as far as churches go, like a lot of times, churches are the worst offenders. They're often they don't care a rip about you or your family, but
right.
That's certainly not the case with this one. So
right, yeah. So and I'm not going to ask you to disclose numbers or anything like that. But you're making enough to be comfortable. I mean, you guys are doing pretty well.
Yeah. For now.
For now.
But, one of the challenges with it, of course, is that it changes every month.
Right. It's not predictable.
Yeah, exactly. But you hope that roller coaster is kind of going up and up and up. And trending upward, as they say. And so I am, some months are still down. Like this month is probably going to be lower than last month, but last month was great. And so the other benefit, and that people don't see it this way, but I think the benefit of, and by the way, I'm exclusive to Amazon, anyone listening, wondering, but just about any author you talk to is going to have some influence at Amazon. They're going to have some footprint there, whether they're wide or exclusive, right? So, and I say Amazon because Amazon pays 60 days out from the close of month.
Yeah.
And so that's actually a benefit in my case because I can see right now a pretty good estimate of what I'm going to get paid 2 months from now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I had not thought about
so
that.
That's good. Yeah, exactly. And so it's really nice to know, okay, well, next month I've got these trips coming up, but it's going to be a pretty big month. And so, you know what, we'll have the cash flow to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
The month after is also a big month, or I should say last month was also a big month. And so 2 months from now, or I guess a month from now, whatever it is, I don't do math. We'll be good. But we need to save for this low month that's coming up. So we'll have to put some of that away, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as far as the paychecks go, I pay myself the same amount every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it's just, Amazon dumps money in the account. I get some stuff from freelance and all that. And then every 2 weeks on the first or the 15th and the 30th, I think it is right now. My E-Trade bank account is where it is. They dump money into my Wells Fargo account, and that's my paycheck. That's what I get every 2 weeks. I'm hoping that will continue to go up, but for the next foreseeable future, we're cutting back a little bit. Not buying as many bottles of whiskey every day, just 3 or 4, and then just some general tightening up a little bit that you do when you make a big change like that.
I think that's the right strategy, though. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's fine. You're right. I believe it's the right strategy because it's if for no other reason, it's always good to take stock every now and then and just say, well, I'm speaking specifically financially, but I mean in general too.
Yeah.
But financially, what are we spending? What do we want to spend? And can we get away with buying more things at Costco and not going to the store every day or whatever?
Right.
Are just some good questions I think any married couple should be thinking about.
Probably not bad questions. Yeah.
Probably not bad. But we had 3 incomes at one point, and so it was pretty easy to just say, well, screw it. I'm just let's go do that. Let's go buy it.
Now, the one thing that this is particularly applicable to you may not be as applicable to other authors, but I mean, now that you're not going into a day job and you're able to do this full time, I mean, you were making the income you're making now, you were making with the time you had available, right?
Exactly.
So now you can amp things up a little. You can also find other avenues of revenue, other streams. So I think, I don't think it's going to take you in particular very long to, if there is any sort of gap at all, I think it's not going to take you long to fill it.
I hope not.
Yeah.
There is a gap, and mainly, I don't say mainly, not to make her sound like a bad guy, but my wife is leaving her job as well.
Which I did not want to bring up, but because I didn't know if you wanted to announce it, but I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, I think it's mostly public. I don't know that there's a whole lot of crossover between her zoo job and people who listen to the Wordslinger podcast.
Could be, hey man, 35,000 people, buddy.
I think she's already told her people at work anyway, I think, and so I don't foresee there being any problem with it, but whatever. So she's leaving her job, which is going to be great for our kids. She's getting interested in some different career things she's thinking about. But most importantly, it's going to free us up from having to pay a childcare provider and do all that.
Right. Well, and the thing, you brought this up, and I think, another couple that had been on the show, the Russos from We're the Russos. I talk to them frequently, but and I edited his book, which should release soon. Ish. But one of the things that they brought up is similar to what you said. Like there was a kind of meeting in the middle in that when they decided to leave their jobs, they both left very lucrative jobs. They bought an RV. Now they're in a much smaller RV, but they didn't just like get it in, start trying to focus on, we got to build up a big income. They also started downsizing and sorry, I'm having kind of a hiccup moment. Sorry, but they started kind of reducing their overhead too. So they sort of meet in the middle, and the advantage. And it sounds horrible to some people. I think it sounds horrible to my wife, actually. But you get to this point where you're like, okay, I only need, let's say, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month to get to live, to pay my expenses. I can bring in $5 or $6 grand a month with this YouTube channel or these book sales or whatever. That's a nice buffer, and we can live anywhere we want and be whoever we want to be. I think you're kind of getting to that point too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have a mortgage on a house, and
Yeah,
you know, we're pretty settled here in Colorado Springs. But you know, that's kind of the dream. I would say
it's more about picking up and going than being.
Yeah, not necessarily living in an RV and moving around every day, but you know, we're going to be able to go camping in the middle of the week now. All these campgrounds around here are always booked on the weekends and in the summertime. So not anymore. We're just going to go on Monday. You know,
that is remarkable.
Which is going to be nice. Christmas time. Oh yeah, we're going down to Texas, and I'm going to stay, you know, your place hopefully.
Yeah.
But not the whole time. But you know, our parents both live in Texas, and so
as long as you want, man.
We're down there.
Open invite.
Drive down and, you know, drop the dogs off, drop the kids off, and go party in Texas for a few weeks because we can.
Right.
We'll be able to fund it, but you know.
Of course, you know, everyone else got to work.
Exactly. We're just like, oh, well, I guess we'll just watch a movie again.
It's like you and I, we'll get to hang out. I'll get to hang out with you and him.
Right. Exactly.
We can drive by Kara and take her to lunch or something.
That's right. We'll have to, the rest of the schmucks have to work.
That's unfortunate. So no, but that is part of the appeal of this. And the thing is, and you always get here's the caution. The caution always comes, right? This isn't like a typical, like, don't expect coming in, I'm going to write a book and this is going to be my lifestyle. I'm going to have the whole swank Nick Thacker lifestyle, or Thick Knacker, as I
Thick Knacker, yeah.
Now that I know that Nick Thacker's your pen name. Thick Knacker is hilarious. So, you know, the caution there is, you know, you didn't just pop in on this, like you've been working on this for quite some time.
Yeah, Chris Gullible, right? Back in the day, the 279 days to overnight success or something like that.
Yeah.
Mine was like 5 years, really, you know, more than that, because I've been talking about entrepreneurship and this kind of lifestyle for 10 years. Ever since I discovered it, you know, probably thanks to Tim Ferriss or someone like that, you know, online.
Gillibo.
Yeah, right, exactly. One of those guys, and I was like, oh, that's an intriguing idea, but I totally see the point of, like, it just takes a ton of work to get to this point.
Right.
And I've kind of called it my slow growth process, you know, my slow freedom process. Like, I was never, well, I shouldn't say never. We always want, like, well, what can I do tonight that's going to make me famous tomorrow?
Right.
I think we have those ideas and stuff, but when I finally realized, okay, I've got my family, I've got my house, I've got my dogs, my kids, like, everything is kind of here and set, and I've got my day job that's paying the bills and then some. What can I do on the side and take my time at it so I don't stress myself out, become unhealthy or lose time with my family that eventually will lead to freedom.
Right.
Which is, I think, kind of counterintuitive to what the whole, you know, online internet generation is saying every time you open, you know, a blog post or something.
Right. Well, they always focus on the flash stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing, I guess, inherently wrong with it, but I think there's some beauty in being able to slow down and, you know, just enjoy life, and at the same time build something for you on the side that eventually will become something that's not on the side anymore.
Right.
And that's what I did with books. And when I realized I was doing that, I said, okay, well, I still want to write more and I still want to produce stories, but I don't really feel like I want to be forced to sit down and write every day. And I know that's sacrilegious to most, you know, writers, but I'm writing every day now because I have the time. But before, it was like, well, I'm not going to take time from my family. I'm going to be home at 5:30 every day because I want to make sure that I can cook dinner for them and hang out with them and put them to bed and everything. And I've done that every single day, unless I've been out of town for, you know, the 2 years that they've been alive.
Right.
And I love it, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything. And so the fact that it's sort of like the best of both worlds. Now I get to be a full-time writer like I wanted to, and I haven't lost any time with my kids either. You know?
Right. Yeah.
So I think the story is very different for a lot of entrepreneurs. You know, well, you know, don't do it like I did. I gave up all my kids, you know, young life and stuff, but I built this $1 million company.
Right.
You know, maybe I'll never be a millionaire, but I hope and I pray that we'll be successful enough to enjoy life and do what we want, where we want, when we want, because we have freedom and just enough money to get us there.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of the goal right now. So.
Yeah. No. And I
wouldn't mind being a millionaire, but you know.
I don't know. I think it's probably got its downsides. You're.
Yeah. I'll test it. I'll test it. You know, I'll write a
Oh
blog
yeah.
post.
Well, yeah, well, let me know. You get back to me. Yeah. All right. So, well, it's awesome, by the way, that Emily's going to do this full time too. It's just well, and here's the thing: you guys are. And this is gonna make me feel and sound so freaking old. You're young enough that you can kind of roll these dice, right? Because it's not like if 6 months from now or a year from now or even 3 years from now you're not making the kind of money you need in order to have a stable and happy life. It's not like all doors are closed, every opportunity is gone now, maybe to be a little stressful for a few months while you look for something else, but
Sure, exactly. And that's the thing. I told Emily too, I was like, hey, even a slow month is a month where I sell books.
right.
So, hey, maybe I only make $500 a month. That's $500 a month. That's a half of a mortgage payment for a lot of people,
Yeah.
or
It's more or less passive at this point too, right? I mean, it's a passive income for the most part.
That's on that. Yeah. Like it's passive income, even without doing any marketing, I think I could do that. That's easy without even having written another book. So now that may not last forever, but most people in the world don't have that. So if they're out of job, they're out everything, they got to go find something quick.
Right.
And I always tell my wife, like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be a greeter at Walmart. I'll work at Starbucks. And there's nothing wrong with those jobs, but they're not what I would want to do. Right. I would go do them in a heartbeat if that's what it. You're not going to die paupers and starve in the street.
Well, in addition,
like what my internal mind wants me to believe.
Right. Well, and that's that's that fear response that we all have. That. Yeah. Oh my God, this is going to fail and I'm going to have to live on the street. And, most of the time you're never going to have to do that. But, and that's the thing too.
Pretty soon.
What's that now?
You'll have a squatter and their family in your RV.
Right. Maybe I should hold on to the RV just as your backup plan. Right. No, but you've got this opportunity now. And let's just say you end up having to work at Starbucks or something. I mean, to supplement, right? You can still be doing what you dreamt of doing. Right. And still even have flexibility because you could say, look, I only work these days, or hey, next month I need these days off, and then you go camping in the middle of the week like you wanted.
Really, that's true. Yeah, absolutely.
That's actually easier with those types of jobs.
Right. I don't know. Part-time gig. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I haven't had one of those types of jobs in, like 30 years. So maybe I'm just unqualified to talk about it, but it seems like it would be easier than for like the high pressure salaried position with a, marketing firm or software company or whatever. Like I have for time off when I was at like, technology companies,
Right. Yeah. I mean, scooping ice cream at Baskin Robbins is probably not something that only I can do.
Low pressure work. Right. Exactly.
So it shouldn't be the end of the world if I have to ask a couple days
I don't want to talk like this though. I don't want to talk like, well, at least you could go back and work at Baskin Robbins. Cause you're not going to have to do that. Cause you're already successful really.
I hope not, yeah.
So that's cool. And of course, and I congratulate you all the time on this, but I mean, congratulations, I mean, to you and him, because that's a big deal.
Well, a lot of it's been, you've been kind of the reason for a lot of this.
I'm not the reason for
Well, absolutely. I mean, I came to you and I was like, hey, I need the accountability. That's the part that's missing. I can do the work, but I don't want to do the work. I'll do any chore, any miserable task in order to prevent myself from having to write, and it's different now because it's my job, but so I'm not as exhausted as I would be if I had to go to a job or come home from work.
I'll say this, dude, and I think I feel like you're probably the same way, but it does help me quite a bit to know that, I'm going to be chatting with you about what I'm working on, right?
Yeah.
That accountability. Yeah. But I mean, it's sort of like not competition necessarily, but more of a, I don't want to shame myself by saying, oh, I haven't written.
Yeah. I never once thought what we had was a competition, but it was definitely like let's pick each other up kind of thing and keep moving toward the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. But so I reached out to you and was like, hey, will you ask me these questions every week and then every month? And you still do that. And it's amazing. And by the way, if anyone listening, I think this is an extremely valuable, I didn't come up with this, so I can totally say that it's awesome and everyone should do it. But go find that person for you. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's someone you've never met online.
Maybe it's your dog. Could be your dog. Now I have to edit. No, I'm not going to edit.
Yeah, now you got to edit a little.
This silence brought to you by Nick Thacker's dog.
Anyway, these questions are very simple. It was, weekly. It was like, I wanted you to ask me if I got the words done that I want. What was it like? You write 500 words a week or something like that.
Right.
Something lame. Because it was important for me to not only know that you were going to ask that, but when you did, the follow-up was going to be there. Well, why didn't you? Or what changed that made you be able to write 10,000 words this week as opposed to 2, last week?
Right.
And then, there were some financial things. Did you hit your goals this month? But anyway, I think it was, it's accountability, right? It's accountability 101. Yep. So it's not a surprise when I would get that text from you. I knew it was coming. But when it came, it forced me to think about, the reasons behind why or why not,
mm-hmm.
More so than I would have if I could just kind of explain it to myself.
Right.
The other thing I think was really helpful, and I just kind of realized this, a few days ago. I don't know when he posted it, but Seth Godin writes a blog every morning,
right?
7 days a week. He's done it for years, and his blog post a few days ago, maybe it was last week sometime, was on why we, I can't remember what he called it, but it was why we allow ourselves to tell ourselves things that we would never allow anyone else to tell us. And I do this all the time, man, where I'm like, I'll tell myself I can't do it or why I'm going to fail. And that, no one does this who, we leave 2 well-paid jobs to go be a full-time writer / camper. Dude, I can't tell you how pissed I would be if somebody actually told me those things.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean,
that's a very good point. Yeah.
If you told me that and you were like, dude, come on, you can't really do that. Like if you outwardly said that and literally told me that, I'd punch you in the
right.
But every moment of downtime I have every day, I'm worrying about something. I'm telling myself a lie. I'm telling myself something that anxiety, and I think Seth Godin wrote this too a few months ago. Like anxiety is fear that is not realized. It's fear that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
It's being afraid of something that's not even, maybe it's rational, but probably not. It hasn't even happened yet.
I've started doing this thing where, cause I'm working on the whole mental landscape really, I take my dog for longer walks now than I used to, because for one, I keep finding money every time I go out on these walks. So
we should keep doing what's working, man.
Whatever motivates me, and it's helping me
to read that book one day. But
yeah, you're going to walking for dimes. So and it's exercise. It makes me feel a little better. And
there's also that.
Yeah, there's that. But it's mostly about the money, and it's also sort of this change in attitude. Like I'll tell myself, because I get those anxiety attacks. I do. Like we've talked about this, right? So now it's all about.
That's one area where we do challenge each other. Is I challenge you to have more anxiety than me this week, and you're like challenging.
That's our competition. And like this week, I'm like sweating balls the whole week, man. But no, I'll tell myself, the phrase that comes up now is "did not happen." So it's I start thinking about I make 30 0 days in a row or something. What if that happens? What am I going to do? What if I can't get my RV sold? What if we can't figure, all these what ifs, right? And I'll interrupt that with "did not happen." And it's the process of interrupting it.
I was just going to say the interruption that keeps coming up in all these.
Right.
Yep. The habit setting forums. I mean, anything like that, any book you read on habit forming, and it's the interrupting that natural inclination to start telling yourself something, even if it's good. I mean, you can interrupt something you're telling yourself, I can do this. You can interrupt it and say, no, I'm going to do better than I can, better than I thought I could, whatever.
Right.
I'm trying that with my soccer games. I do once a week. I play indoor soccer with a bunch of old fat guys. And actually, no, I'm the oldest and fattest one there, but I've always been kind of the worst player on the field. And I hated that because I'm competitive. I want to, win. I want to be not the worst guy on the team.
Right.
So I've tried to talk myself into this idea that no, there's no reason for me to be worse than these other guys. I know what I can do, but then I would shortchange myself because I would only do that.
Right.
Like I can only really sprint once down that field, and then I'm burnt and need to get a sub.
Right.
And so I've been starting to do this thing where I interrupt myself and say, no, screw that. I'm going to sprint both ways, and I'm just going to keep sprinting until I die,
Yeah.
And inevitably it never comes to my death, thankfully.
Right. So far.
So something pauses the game before that happens. So
yeah. No, man, that's just like when we were hanging out together a few weeks ago, we went on a hike up. What was the name of that?
It was St. Mary's Glacier outside
St. Mary's Glacier, right? Man, dude, and I'm fat, out of shape.
Man, awesome.
I'm from Houston, so there's no oxygen in Colorado at 1,200 feet.
Right.
So
12,000 feet.
12,000 feet, and like we're pausing, and I feel so bad about it, right? Like every 10 feet, like, oh, hold on, all right, let's go. But there was that. So for me, there was that moment when we were basically at the top of that trail.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of folks came in from the other side and said, hey man, there's a whole easier route, like right there.
Right.
And I wanted to do it, like, sure. Right.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but it was, no, you know what, let's go ahead and I'm going to push them and we're going to make it. And then it was like 3 more feet and
it was very, really
like,
wasn't
it was
even
ridiculous. Right. So
the other one was longer, so it was down and around, and this one we took was just over and above, but it was, like you said, 3 feet straight up, and then
it was still uphill, but much, whatever. But like, that was, I look at that and think, you know what, that's what I want my life to be. I don't want to stop 3 feet from my goal, and take the side trail that takes me longer and doesn't give me the sense of accomplishment, or doesn't let me, because when we crested that particular hill, man, that was like, we were both like, dude, this is the view we paid to see, man. This is where we want to live. My house goes there. Let's get these tourists out of here.
The squatter in the RV goes right there.
All right. So, we're at time, of course, because these conversations go by quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll wrap up, but hey, you hang out, because we're gonna chat a little bit more. And everyone listening, if you haven't heard of this by now, and I don't think I've made it fully official, I did announce this, but we're doing the Wordslinger podcast after show, which you'll be able to participate in. You'll be able to listen in on as a Patreon subscriber or supporter. So now, if I haven't set this up yet, by the time this episode goes live, you get to all ridicule me and email me and whatever. But thanks for being on the show, Nick, man. Where can people find you and your stuff?
Well, easiest place is my website is nickthacker.com. I'm sure we'll have a link to that, since no one can seem to spell my name right most of the time.
It'll be in the show notes.
And, it'll be in the show notes. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter, at Nick Thacker on Twitter. And you can find me on Facebook. It's author Nick Thacker, because there's 2 of me on Facebook. So
yeah, that's weird.
The one you want.
All right.
The non-author one, that guy's he's a joke. You don't want to follow him.
All right, cool, man. All right, you'll find links to all that in the show notes, so be sure to check that. Please stop driving, idiot. Stop. Just pull over and look at that stuff. Don't do that while driving.
That's right.
All right, man. Everybody hang out. You're probably hearing the groovy bridge music right now. You may dance in place at will. And stick around for a quick bit of housekeeping and announcements, etc. Nick, thanks so much for being on the show, man. And we'll see everybody next time. Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Nick Thacker. Again, if you'd like to see more interviews like this, you're going to want to click that subscribe button down below. You're also going to want to make sure you click the little bell so you know when a new episode of the Wordslinger podcast goes live. Please be sure to check me out at wordslingerpodcast.com. And if you happen to be a reader, I'm also an award-winning and best-selling thriller author, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd go check me out on Amazon, pick up maybe a couple of my books. Check out the books of Nick Thacker, too. He's a pretty good writer. So thank you so much for tuning in. You'll find links to everything in the notes below. Take care of yourselves. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.
Wordslinger.